Hello and welcome to the She Reads Romance Books podcast, the ultimate show for romance book lovers looking for the best books worth reading. I'm your host, Leslie Murphy, and in each short episode, I share my favorite book list of recommendations so you know exactly what to add to your must-read list. Join me as I explore the romance genre and have fun collecting book boyfriends along the way, because life is better with a love story. Hello, readers! I am so happy to have you tuning in for this episode of the She Reads Romance Books podcast, where I am talking about all of the romance books that I read in September and sharing what I really think of them. As always, I want to give it to you straight and let you know if a book I read is worth a spot on your ever-growing TBR list, or if it's one that you can just skip and really not worry about adding at all. I didn't think that this list would be too long because it was a month of a lot of stuff for me. Mostly good, though maybe one thing not. But I actually did read quite a bit between everything else going on this month. So yay. I was ahead of my reading goal, however, for the year. But now I'm just sort of on track. So I think I'm going to have to binge read a few weekends here in October to get myself sitting pretty again. Before we come to the end of the year. So we'll see what happens there. This month, I was distracted for a bit from reading because the She Reads Romance books got a facelift. Oh my gosh, I think it's super pretty now, and I hope a bit easier to navigate and find all of the good stuff, from book lists and categories to where to start if you're a newbie reader or a seasoned romance reader, to new freebies that you can go and grab on the site, and a whole host of things. So definitely take some time to head over to shereadsromancebooks.com and explore the new look and feel. I would love it if you did so. I was also very busy moving over the She Reads Romance Books book club membership to live on She Reads Romance Books. So it's super easy now to log in and out and get all of the good stuff right there on the blog. Plus, it sort of sets it up so it's all set and ready for a new perk to membership, which is going to be exclusive book lists. I'm going to be crafting a new book list a week for club members starting in 2025, if not before, which you can only check out if you're in the club. So if you've been on the fence, I really hope you'll come over and join us. We are such a great group. Oh my gosh, I love our group and women so much. And the author Q&As have been just unbelievable. Have totally blown every expectation I ever had about them, meeting these favorite authors of ours. It's just been a blast. So I hope with this added ease to log in and out on the website and this added perks coming, that I hope you will consider joining. So with both of those projects on my plate, and then Hurricane Helene coming through the Carolinas, I was a bit busy, and reading got pushed off for those projects until they were complete, but they're done, and we didn't get nailed too bad by Helene, thank goodness, unlike our Western North Carolina neighbors. So we feel pretty lucky, and I'm definitely keeping everyone there in our thoughts. And also, I should say, this is a total aside, I've already talked about this in my newsletter and on the Facebook group, so I'm going to do it now on the podcast and talk about another distraction this past month. Was totally binge watching, oh my gosh, what is the show? Nobody Wants This. Can't believe I blanked there for a second. On Netflix. It's the new TV series with Kristen Bell and Adam Brody, and I am completely obsessed with it. I saw the trailer a couple weeks ago and we talked about it in the Facebook group, how much I thought this looked completely adorable. This rabbi falling in love with woman who's a podcaster, talking all about, sex and dating and whatnot. But they are freaking adorable together. The banter, their chemistry. I just loved every episode. It's 10 episodes, 30 minutes long. If you haven't checked it out, totally worth it, because I absolutely love their meet cute. So if adorable meet cutes in romance books is your thing, then oh my God, have to watch this for their meet cute. Plus, their first kiss is amazing. I don't know what it is. I just think how he goes in, and maybe the music, whatever. I freaking loved it. I've watched it
multiple times. I will admit, I just freaking love the show. So that was another really fun, good distraction for September because I really don't watch a ton of TV. I always prefer a book over TV. But that being said, I did fit in a good, decent amount, and we're going to talk about them. So back to my reading list. This month was full of sort of, I'd say, eclectic reads. There's some holiday romance already available, some monster romance and fantasy, and some good old contemporary romance books to my reading list as well. So let's just dive right in. So, in my podcast episode on my August reading list, I mentioned that I had started reading the new fantasy romance, The Games Gods Play by Abigail Owen. And I was already obsessed with it from the very first page, I think I'd mentioned in that episode. Well, I can say that it is phenomenal. The entire way through the 500 plus pages, it was that good. And I know I'm not the only one to think so because it became a New York Times bestseller, and rightly so, I think. If you haven't grabbed it yet, this romantasy follows Lyra. She is a thief who was cursed by Zeus when she was in the womb that no one would love her. And she's completely fed up with her curse and about to cause some destruction to Zeus's temple when Hades intervenes. And in sort of the turn of events, he ends up choosing her to be his champion in the Crucible, which is this contest the Greek gods run every 100 years to determine the next ruler of Olympus. And so what follows is just this epic fantasy of humans competing in these trials, sort of like the Hunger Games, all the while Lyra and Hades have this incredible slow burn romance that just builds and builds. This book is hands down one of my best romance books of 2024. I already have it up on that list. If you love romantasy, you have to read it, especially if you love Greek mythology or if you ever loved reading the Percy Jackson series. I honestly cannot wait for book 2, which she is currently writing, I think. It is going to be actually a 3-book series, but what I really love, especially about this book, is that it's a complete story in and of itself. It's full of world building, a suspense, and romance, but a complete story that doesn't leave you, well, it does leave you wanting more because it does have a little bit of a cliffhanger that's going to, walk you into book 2, but you could absolutely just read this book, love it, and then not choose to continue with the series, if that makes sense. Definitely worth a read. I cannot recommend it enough. The Games Gods Play. Okay, next up on my list was Fast and Reckless by Amanda Weaver, which is my first Formula One romance book. I've read a lot of different sports romance books, but never Formula One until now. And I have to say, it was a really great entry into this category because Weaver really knows her stuff around a racetrack, and she gave us the good stuff when it comes to the hot drivers, the fast cars, and sort of the business behind it all. This was a fun office romance between an F1 racer with no fear and who is trying to earn a spot back on a winning team after sort of losing it all with his partying ways, and a woman who loves the track but had been burned by a driver before. Both Myra and Will have past actions that are haunting their potential future careers in racing. So neither of them can really afford the risk of a relationship when they work on the same team, but that, of course, doesn't stop them for long. I really felt for Myra, who is now in her early 20s in this book and back on the racing scene working for her father's team. She was mistreated as a teen and had to shoulder really a heavy burden that was not her fault, and basically lives her life now tiptoeing around her father and working herself to the bone to prove herself and to make up for the past. I loved that Will fell first, and though he pursued her, he wasn't really creepy about it, even though they worked together. He too had to prove himself given a harried past, but he was fearless. I would say overall, a 3.5 star read for me, and one I'd recommend if you want to check out Formula One. My next read was our book club pick of the month, which was Banana Pants by Penny Reed. This is a new adult, estranged childhood friends to lovers romance. But what really sticks out about this book is its mental health representation. The hero of the story, Des, who, if you've read Penny's Knitting in the City series, is the son of Janie and Quinn from Neanderthal Seeks Human. He has bipolar 1 disorder, and the book really explores his path to diagnosis and how this mental health condition impacts his relationship with his parents and with his childhood friend, Ava. Penny is very upfront with the fact that her daughter was recently diagnosed with bipolar 1 and that her daughter helped her with Dez's point of view for this story. I have to say, it was really, really special getting to hear this backstory from Penny in our author Q&A for the book club this month. She is just this incredible human being, so smart, so just wise. And it was a really special hour to spend talking with her about this book and her work. I feel like I always learn something from Penny's books, and this one is no different. I highly, highly recommend Banana Pants. Okay, so moving on from new adult romance, I decided to dip my feet into a new category of romance to me that I really haven't explored too much, but that I've been curious about given its popularity. Plus, I wanted to read something in anticipation of a podcast episode that I had released this past month, and that was on monster romance books. I had read one previously over the summer, but I utilized my Kindle Unlimited subscription to check out another this past month, and that was My Chameleon Mate by Susan Trumbly. Yep, you heard that right. This is a romance where the human female heroine falls for this chameleon being. I talked about it a little bit on that episode, but I'll rehash it here. To set up the story, Vera is this human who just got married to this like asshat of a husband. I mean, he's horrible. And they're on their honeymoon, and he booked this unauthorized excursion to explore this uncharted territory. But while on the ship, Vera catches him hooking up with the pilot. And so, in her anger, she accidentally launches herself in an escape pod down to this alien jungle where she crash lands, and shenanigans ensue from there. Also on this planet is this lizard guy who has these like big black eyes. He's got some horns, definitely has scales, has this long ass tail that saves her from certain deaths. And pretty much from that moment on, they get it on despite having no ability to communicate with one another with a language that they both understand. And as I said, that really doesn't stop them, however, from getting pretty spicy with each other and Vera experiencing his 2 prods, yes, 2, and his tail, yes, all 3 come into action at one time. So I have to say, though, monster romance, it's not my first go-to. Like, I will be honest in saying that, but I really enjoyed this book for what it was. The chameleon being, I kind of forget if he had a name, was actually super sweet and really wanted to protect Vera and take care of her and, of course, pleasure her. It was a fun read that did get pretty spicy. I'm glad I checked it out on Kindle Unlimited. I mean, that is totally what this subscription is there for, to check out new and diverse reads. So I would recommend it if you're new to monster romance and just sort of want to see what it's all about. And she has more in her series. For more recommendations, though, you can definitely circle back to episode 74 that I did with special guest Becky Feldman, and we talk all about monster romance in that episode. It was so much fun, and honestly, I think one of my most favorite episodes to record. So then my next book was such a great read, and one I highly recommend you check out this month when it releases, and that is The Nightmare Before Christmas by Sarah Roche, if I say her name correctly. So this was such a fun, unique holiday romance that made my list of most anticipated new Christmas romance books of 2024. And it honestly did not disappoint, but it's perfect to read this month because it kind of highlights a bunch of different holidays, including Halloween. So this was my first book by Rosh, and I was blown away by her writing. Not only did she create such a fun story and have impeccable writing that just made the story flow, but she made me laugh so hard in spots while also really making me ponder like how the holidays have become so commercial, right? Losing their focus on the joy that they're sort of meant to inspire. I've always loved the spirit of Christmas season, that holiday, but I honestly never really thought about the joy of Halloween, like Hex outlined in this story. So, this is an romance with an arranged marriage plot sort of in the background. Nicholas, or AKA Cole Claus, is meant to overtake the family business, but he hates how his father, the reigning Santa, turns the holiday into a PR facade. And unbeknownst to him, until the announcement's made, his father makes this pronouncement that he is to marry his best friend Iris, the Easter princess, and who also happens to be his younger brother's not so secret crush. When meanwhile, he just had this epic moment with a mysterious someone that he cannot stop thinking about, who happens to be, as he later learns, Hex, the Prince of Halloween, who arrives in Christmas Town to challenge him for Iris's hand in marriage when really it's the two of them who burn with like the best chemistry. So I hope you can follow all of that to this story. As I wrote in my review, Rosh, gosh, she could have chosen to write, your average romance, but this was so much more, and I really devoured every page. It was really easy to become obsessed with Cole. I loved this man who definitely came across as sort of like a hot mess in the beginning, but he was someone who truly loved the joy of Christmas. And then there was Hex, who was equally as compelling and someone I just kind of wanted to like jump into the book and give a big old hug to. I definitely cannot recommend this book enough for the incredible storyline, the romance, and the thought provoking it sort of inspires. But you'll also love this if you enjoy hilarious puns, texting that is both funny and hot, romance with the sweetest of cinnamon rolls, and spice with some really hot consent to it. I followed this book with another holiday romance, which is available now, and that is All I Want Is You by Fallon Ballard. Cute little play on that title for the Christmas holiday. This was also my first book by Fallon, and it was such a delight. I really enjoyed it. It too made my list of most anticipated new Christmas romance books of 2024, and it totally delivered, I think, a really sweet romance that is perfect for the holidays. So it's a second chance romance, which can be like this trope sort of hit or miss for me, ranging kind of from what I consider the overly sappy to kind of the unbelievable. But this one sort of hit that sweet spot. It follows Jessica and Nick, who are both romance writers and who are forced back together for career reasons and then find themselves sharing a room with only one bed when they are snowed in at the inn where their fateful reunion occurred. So lots of fun tropes thrown into this one. They haven't seen each other for 5 years since Nick broke her heart one Christmas, but you come to see pretty quickly that these two still love one another and are meant to have their own happy ending. It did take me a hot minute to try and understand why they even broke up in the first place because they're just so freaking cute together, but I finally understood it. And if you're looking for a sweet and spicy romance that you'll devour in a day this holiday, I highly recommend All I Want Is You. Okay, so after moving on from holiday romance, I dove into my advanced reader copy of Under Lock and Key by Lana Ferguson, which was, again, a total delight. I'd say it's monster light because Lachlan isn't really a full-time monster, but I loved how Lana returned to paranormal romance with this one and explored the concept that what if the Loch Ness Monster all this time was really a man cursed to become a dinosaur-like figure from sundown to sun up. Can't say that this idea ever crossed my mind, but I was all for it, especially since it revolves around a Scottish hero with the best Scottish brogue. Kiana, the heroine of the story, is an American who travels to Scotland with the goal of dispersing her late father's ashes in the place where he grew up, in the place where he supposedly was rescued by the Loch Ness Monster many years ago, before fleeing his homeland after an altercation with his family. So, arriving unannounced, Key is not received with the warmest of welcomes from her grandmother or the grumpy neighbor staying in the guest house, who is Lachlan. She's grieving the loss of her dad and looking for family and answers about his past, and is about to throw in the towel, given her cold reception until she meets Nessie himself. So let me just say that Lana can write some serious dirty talk, you guys. But writing dirty talk in a Scottish brogue just about set me on fire. What I wouldn't give to have Lachlan whisper to me, "That's a good lass. Feels so good inside you. You're going to take everything I give you, yeah?" Oh my freaking God. And that's just a piece of it from this book. There's another fun aspect to this paranormal romance that comes out that I won't spoil for you, but if you loved the fake mate and its nodding scenes from the werewolf romance, then you'll love Key discovering that she's turned on by Lachlan's monster characteristics. Is it super spicy? I think overly so, but Lana does make sure that Key enjoys a bit of the monster before the book is over. I highly recommend this to all the paranormal romance, monster romance, and shapeshifter romance lovers out there, and especially those readers who have been reluctant to try those romance categories. It's a great entry book, as I say. My next book, I had been waiting to read forever, as I'd been, I think I was 125 on the hold list for my local library. But then the audiobook became available for Nora Goes Off Script by Annabelle Monaghan. So it became available for me this past month. So yay, totally jumped on that. I loved Summer Romance, which was our August 2024 book of the month for book club. So I really had to circle back to her first book since I hadn't read it, which did give me similar vibes because it's another romance about a single mother who also has a very douchey ex-husband. So the heroine, Nora, she is a Romance Channel screenwriter who ends up turning her marriage's collapse into a script that gets picked up and is going to film a bit on location at her house with a pretty big name in Hollywood playing the role of her ex-husband. But after the 3 days of shooting, Leo, the hero, ends up staying in her guest house for a week, which morphs into more time, and they end up falling for one another. I think Annabelle writes amazing heroines in her stories, and I loved Nora. Hated her ex and how he mooched off of her for so long. Ugh. Leo, he was a hard nut for me to crack and to get their connection. I did like, however, how he was all in with her, but then there was this long, and I mean really long, separation that I just didn't understand. But then I kind of did once the reasoning came out, and I was like, okay, let's move past this to the happy ending, people. And you get a really sweet one. As I said, I love Annabelle's writing, but Summer Romance, I think, still remains my favorite. I would recommend this one, but only after reading Summer Romance because it was just, oh my gosh, freaking fantastic. So yeah, I would recommend both, but maybe start with Summer Romance. The last book I was able to squeeze in this month was our October 2024 book club pick, another holiday romance, and that is A Jingle Bell Mingle by Julie Murphy and Sierra Simone. I obviously wanted to read it to get our discussion guide up and ready in the book club, and it's there if you are a member or if you're interested in joining this month. This is book 3 in their Christmas Notch series, and I think their final book in this series, but it can be read as a standalone. It follows Isaac Kelly, a former member of this popular boy band who has been living like a recluse for the past 5 years, ever since his wife and his muse suddenly died. He's been in mourning, but his feet are to the fire to produce one more album that he's contracted to complete for his record label. but he's just been stuck because he lost his wife and she was his muse. So then enter Sunny. She is, gosh, a part-time porn star, a makeup artist, now a screenwriter who sold a script to Murphy and Simone's version of the Hallmark Channel that is opening up to sort of more spicy movies. So she sold the idea of a movie based on a Christmas miracle legend that occurred in the small town of Christmas Notch many years ago, but she needs to investigate it further to complete her screenplay. Plus, the motel where she's staying is a death trap. So Ian or Isaac, already knowing Sunny, as she's the best friend of his best friend's new wife in a former one-night stand, invites her to move in with him so that she can help him find a muse and he can help her uncover the mystery to the Christmas miracle so she can finish her screenplay. Okay, none of that is spoilers because that's all part of the summary. So a bit of forced proximity action and former one-night stand tension that brings these two together into what becomes a roommates with benefits situation, but we know how those always end up, don't we? But it's not quite that simple since both are carrying some serious baggage due to, and I mean that in the best way, due to their grief and the loss that they've experienced in their lives. This was definitely a cute and fun holiday romance. Not too holiday-esque, so you don't let that stop you from reading it now or really any time of year. But it does end on like Christmas Day, so you sort of do get that. Julie and Sierra have this way with this series of crafting something that's both fun and a bit raunchy, but this one also, a bit serious, looking at grief and the idea of being able to move forward with one's life. I enjoyed this entire series, including this one. So definitely give it a read and then come chat about it with us in book club and with authors Julie Murphy and Sierra Simone in our author Q&A on October 22nd. I think I'm just going to be laughing that entire hour of the author Q&A because these two are a freaking hoot, and I think it's going to be a blast to chat with them. Okay, so that was my reading list for September. Not too shabby. I hope that you found a little bit of something to add to your TBR list, or maybe I'd encourage you not to read something. Who knows? But as you dive into your reading for October, definitely keep in mind the October prompts for the She Reads Romance Books Reading Challenge, which is to read one fantasy or paranormal romance, which I offered a few suggestions actually in today's list, or you can pick a book written by an indie author. Be sure that you've signed up for my newsletter, as I always share the challenge prompt and book recommendations every month to help get you started, so you don't want to miss those. But as always, to round out this episode for a few more book recommendations, I always love to pull a card from my A Year of Reading Romance card deck for a reading prompt for this month. In case you're not familiar, this is my 52 card deck of reading challenge prompts in romance genre categories and tropes to help you answer that fateful question, what should I read next? It's available to purchase on shereadromancebooks.com. I think it's great to purchase any time of year, but now is also the perfect time because it's a great holiday gift, stocking stuffer, perfect to kick off the new year, to even create your own reading challenge. So definitely head over and check it out. So today's card that I pulled, its challenge is to read an Amazon bestseller. Ooh, okay, Amazon bestseller. Gosh, that could be a whole host of books. But the first one that jumps into mind, because she's been on my mind, is Flock by Kate Stewart. It is the first book in her Ravenhood series, and oh my gosh, you will not be the same once you read that series. Just forewarning you, it's amazing. You will become completely obsessed with all the characters in that world. And I'm pretty sure it's an Amazon bestseller because it's freaking amazing. And it's actually available in bookstores now too. So I would check out Flock by Kate Stewart. The other side of this today's card they chose, the romance trope is, roommates to lovers. Well, gosh, I already talked about one today, A Jingle Bell Mingle. Perfect to read for this month and join us in the book club because it is roommates to lovers. But let me think. Two others actually that I read this year, roommates to lovers. Probably already read Funny Story by Emily Henry They were roommates to lovers. Very cute. Loved that one. I also read Only in Forever by Chloe Lisi, her last book in the Bergman series, which I think you can read as a standalone. I've only read a couple in that series and I, picked it up just fine. They are definite roommates to lovers. Super cute. Really loved that story. So that is another one for you to check out. And that wraps it up. Okay, TBR list definitely overflowing. I hope you just check them all out, read all the good stuff. But until then, happy reading. And as always, tune in next time because life is better with a love story.
That's all for this episode of the She Reads Romance Books podcast. I hope you enjoyed it and found some new books to add to your TBR list. If you did, please subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast app. It really helps me reach more romance book lovers like you, and I appreciate your support. If you're a book boyfriend collector like me, then you'll want to join my email list so you never miss a podcast episode or a new book list. Just visit shereadsromancebooks.com/join and sign up today. As a thank you, I'll instantly send you my list of top 10 book boyfriends that will make you swoon. Trust me, you don't want to miss this list. Thank you for listening, and until next time, happy reading.